Welcome. Glad you're with us today for InFocus Live. Today's episode is brought to you by Prevue and also iMeet. The topic today is keep the bounce in your step, staying healthy and fit during meetings and events, and I might add, as we have been talking, also getting to meetings and events. So we've got a great program for you today, and welcome. Let's take a moment and review what we're going to be doing. We'll have a panel discussion first with our very wonderful panel members, Arch FUSTON and also Dr. Mark Tinsley. And then we'll have a couple polls. We'll go into your questions from the participants around the world, and we'll wrap up the show. So that's the plan, and let's get started and meet our fabulous panel. First up, we've got Arch FUSTON. Arch is creator and an initiator of ACTIVex, an employee participation program, and also part of Active Network, Inc., a worldwide company. Arch, welcome. Yes. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor of being invited to be part of this panel. What we're speaking about is something that I am extremely interested and passionate about. My background has been an athlete, a participant my entire life, created by nature, son of an architect and a psychologist. So very creative, very in tune. And about 6 years ago, I made the switch, the career switch from the creative field to the wellness field, health and wellness field, because of a personal incident when my wife and I moved from the Midwest out to California and didn't really make the transition too well. And so in order to kind of rebalance myself and get to know all the people that I was working with and resetting myself into a new life, I created a little program at Active Network called ACTIVex, and kind of volunteered my time for 2.5 years building this program. And then about 3 years into it, the company came to me and said, "Hey, enough people are talking about this. We need to make this your full-time thing." So for the past 3 years, I've been building out what I call employee participation that spans health, fitness, both mental and physical, green initiatives, all kinds of different things, and it's just been a life-changing thing for me, and allowed me to finally figure out I'm doing exactly what I was put on this earth to do. So it's great to share the stories and to help other people achieve other things as well.
Great. Sounds like it's a very holistic program, and we could talk a little bit further about that later. Let's meet our next panelist, Dr. Mark Tinsley. Welcome, Mark. And Mark is the People's Repairman, and he's founder of Fitness for the Rest of Us, author and public speaker, a man of mystery, and also taking out the mystery for others. Dr. Mark, welcome, and a few words. Can you hear me, Mark?
Thanks, Virginia. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Like you said, I really try to take the fear, mystery, difficulty, and confusion out of health, the wellness, and fitness for people. But I find people, like as I said before, know more about their car and their computer than they do about their own bodies. And in my practice, I found myself spending a lot of time speaking to my patients and teaching them how to take better care of themselves, and that led me into professional speaking, going to companies, going to schools, speaking, doing workshops and keynotes for associations, and it's something I really like to do. I'm starved to educate myself. I can't get enough information. I'm always doing research and trying to learn, and when I do learn something, I like to pass that along to other people.
Wonderful. While we're having our discussion, I'd like to encourage our participants from around the world to submit your questions in writing or your thoughts as well, and we'll filter those into the program as we move forward. So glad you're with us. Let's get to it. Keeping healthy. One of the toughest things about us, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is that we really don't know or is in tune with our bodies as perhaps we might. What do each of you do to help people come to that realization and then help train them to move forward in better health? Let's start with Arch. Arch?
Okay. My number one goal with our employee program is to create the opportunity, because I feel the biggest barrier to fitness and to health is not having the time to do so. We're also extremely busy before, during, and after work that really the corporate sector can be the tip of the spear for change by giving employees access to healthy opportunities and making it something that they can create a routine out of, be consistency. That's my main focus, and so we've created an environment here, really a culture that promotes and supports in what we the three terms: engage, enrich, and educate employees for a healthier, happier life.
Well, and an employee who is healthier is more productive. I mean, so it's a very good bottom line issue as well. Dr. Mark,
Yep.
Your thoughts?
On your last point there about employees being more productive, that's one of the things that if I've given a presentation to a manager or an executive and they're still not sold on the idea, that I basically just ask them, if all things else being equal, everything else being equal, would you rather have an employee who's healthy or unhealthy? I mean, I think that really sums it up. Yep. And like Art said, opportunity is huge, along with education and concern. I think a lot of times people just are apathetic. They really aren't too concerned until it's too late. In my practice, I've said for years that my patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, really looking back, wish they took better care of themselves in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. So unfortunately, we don't realize it until it's too late, and sometimes our body doesn't do a good job of warning us. And I use a sunburn as an example. I mean, if you realized you got a sunburn while you were on the beach, you'd get covered up. But unfortunately, we don't realize it until hours later. And as wonderful and as amazing as our bodies are, there are some things that it could do better, and that's one of them. And so just getting people to be concerned enough to do something, then educating them so that they know what to do, because I do think people would like to take better care of themselves, but really don't know where to start. And what my company and what my presentations really focus on are reaching people who need it the most, and are really the non-athletes and the people that are struggling with those types of things. Because that's what I found myself saying in my practice for years. Patients would come up to me and ask me about a technique or a piece of equipment or a supplement, and I would tell them, that might make the difference between a gold or a silver medal in the Olympics, but for me and you, it really isn't going to make that much of a difference. And I said if I was to write or do a presentation, I would call it Fitness for the Rest of Us, and that name, I just kept hearing it over and over again, and now that's one of my signature presentations.
Love it.
I think I lost your audio there, Virginia.
Yeah, I'm not hearing Virginia. There we go.
Can you hear me now? When I travel long distances,
there you go.
I wear pressure socks. Are there any tips that you have for people when they travel?
I personally always carry a little, it's called a super band, or a piece of elastic tubing that I can just reach down, hook over my foot, and just do heel pumps every 30 minutes or something like that. That and just getting up and walking around.
Dr. Mark?
Yeah, I think the pressure socks is a good idea, but you have to remember things like that are passive. And in my background, in my practice, they weren't frowned upon, passive treatments, but you want to be more active, because when the pressure socks do a certain amount of constriction and will help with some of the swelling and some of the congestion, but nothing's better than activity. And so, like Art said, you want to move around. I've heard myself again say to my patients for years, it's kind of like when you cook. If you cook sauce or gravy, every once in a while you've got to stir that pot, and if you don't, things stick to the bottom, the gravy gets lumpy, it sticks to the sides and burns. So you really have to kind of keep that in mind and really stir the pot with yourself through the day. You know, it's not that exercise is so wonderful. It's really that inactivity and being sedentary is so bad for us. And so we just have to have a little reminder, a little cue to ourselves that if we haven't moved in a while, we better get up and stir that pot.
Mm-hmm. There's some airlines that actually have little videos that they show, which is very helpful. Moving your hands, your feet, we're stretching. That's wonderful. Let's go to our first poll. How do you keep healthy running meetings and events? Drink plenty of water, carve out time for exercise, make time for meditation, or all of the above? And the results are coming in. Not much meditation going on. Pretty even across the others. Water, exercise, and all of the above. How does that relate to some of your clients, both of you? Arch?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty tight. With the meetings that we are involved in or put on or are clients of ours, it's really important us to start the culture of health far earlier in the process than just showing up on the meeting dates. Things like planning, actually scheduling healthy related activities before, during, and after the sessions. Linking people with training plans leading up to it. And just creating that culture and that expectation that you're going to be active during this time, and it's all about your health and the quality that comes with the quality that you get out of the meeting by adding those healthy activities into it.
Do you recommend people who are putting out meetings send out reminders to people in advance?
Absolutely, sure.
Any thoughts, Mark?
Well, I think, again, planning is really what it comes down to. I mean, you know, with the meeting planners, we all know how important planning ahead is, and you know, the saying goes, if you fail to plan, plan to fail. That's a big part of it. And I think one thing that planners can do is to encourage this. It's kind of tricky because I don't think you want to actually present it as putting on a healthy meeting, because if you said you were having a healthy meeting, I don't think I would want to come to it, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be very much fun. I think you want to promote it more like an energetic meeting or increasing productivity and things like that. I mean, if you're going to hire somebody, you don't really tell them how much work they need to do. You tell them how much they're going to get paid. So I think we're going to look more at the benefits, and again, health means some different things to different people, and those of us who do that for a living, we embrace it. But most people, if they wanted to be healthy, they would already be healthy, and so we almost have to kind of trick them a little bit like a ninja and do it kind of secretly. But I think promoting it in even the materials, in all the handout materials, and if there's any goodie bags, really trying to educate people, and again, increasing that awareness, telling them why they need to take better care of themselves, educating them and explaining things, why you're doing certain things at your meetings, and then again, as Art said earlier, giving them the opportunity to do it. When I speak at conferences and conventions, I'm usually brought in to provide some sort of information and give an energy boost and get people moving and excited. But one of my big frustrations is very often the rest of the meeting is not aligned with my message. There's no congruency there. The people don't have an opportunity to move around. The food isn't right. The timing. They're starting too early and too late to allow people to get the rest that they need. So if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. And I think that starts with the materials you send out and the materials that you provide to the attendees.
As well as you indicated, the nutrition. The food selection, the pacing of the food, perhaps less sugar, more whole grains, that type of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Not only the main meals, but even the snacks. I mean, I think we have to look toward the healthy snacks, things like nuts and popcorn and fresh fruits and vegetables, right. Dark chocolate, things like that that are going to give people the energy they need. Because, again, we're using an analogy. When we look to sugar for food, if you have a fireplace, you probably burn wood in your fireplace instead of paper, because paper will give you a nice big rush of flame, but then it's gone. And that's really what simple sugars do for us. And so if we eat complex carbohydrates and lean proteins and even healthy fats, that's going to give us a more sustained, steady flow of energy, and we won't want to put our head down an hour after lunchtime and miss the presentation.
Well, I'll vote for the dark chocolate. What are some of the tips that you'd like to give meeting planners on setting up a meeting to incorporate some of those ideas for physical exertion of some sort? Also, people think better when their blood is moving. So what are some of the tips that you might give in just designing a meeting and setting it up to incorporate those into a more healthy meeting lifestyle? Arch?
Okay. Yeah, I was just involved in one, and some of the things we came away with as things that we would do differently moving forward are kind of like Mark said as well, the timing of things. And so we had planned physical activities before but not after. And one thing that the attendees came away with from it is they would really love the time after sessions, after the last session of the day is done, before they're whisked off to dinner, to have an hour and a half to get some kind of activity in, whether it's something that the conference itself sponsors or something that they're just allowed to do on their own. In addition to that, again, back to what Mark was saying, is all of the communication and the vibe that's built around the meeting, the conference, and really the culture that you set up for. So there's an expectation that this is part of it, and providing the opportunities that fit the person that, this may be the first walk they've been on in 5 years versus the person that's training for a marathon that's going on next weekend.
Right. Well, how would you do that for, let's say, a board meeting? Generally, board meetings or committee meetings or other such gatherings that involve a lot of sitting and listening and watching are very static. What are some ideas to get people up and moving, to shake them up a little bit and physically get them to change places?
We've done executive walks with a purpose. And it's basically taking the meeting outside, and it's you walk in a group small enough that the conversation can still be had and the ideation can still happen. It's not necessarily conducive for taking notes, but a lot of times you just need to listen. You just need to listen and create conversation. So those executive walk with the purposes are really fun.
Mark, have you done anything along that line, or have you designed meetings where you can incorporate some activities?
Sure, and I think we have to remember who we're dealing with too. One of my favorite sayings is, "If you teach a man to use a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail." And again, those of us in the health and fitness industry always look to that, and not everybody looks at it the same way. And sometimes there are times where it is best to sit down for a meeting, and sitting for a half hour is not a big problem. So I don't think every meeting has to to worry about that. But if you're meeting frequently, if you're meeting very often, and the meetings are very, very long, well, then we have to really work around that. And again, it has to be right in the agenda. It has to be from the start. And if it's a company or an association, it has to be part of your mission statement. I mean, we really have to look at the culture of things. You're not going to go into a company where people are used to sitting around and make big changes. I mean, there's a process, and and this goes as far as individuals to families to companies or schools or other organizations. Everybody would love to be healthy, but before we can be healthy, we have to act healthy. And before we can act healthy, we have to think healthy. And again, that comes to the culture. I mean, And if you do that right, you'll attract people that fit that culture eventually. You know, the people in your company, the people in your association, the people associated with you are going to migrate toward that, and then there will be less effort to try to change them. You're going to have people coming in there that have maybe even sought you out because of what they've heard about the way that you treat the people and the way you hold your meetings and things like that.
It sort of synergizes. You start synergizing off of that. Yeah, Arch.
And at the core,
it has to permeate the company.
At the core of that is the trans-theoretical model for behavior change, where it looks at individuals in one of 5 positions, and from pre-contemplative to contemplative to preparation to action to maintenance, and looking at your group in all of those channels and seeing what you need to do from a planning standpoint that you can reach and touch every single one of them. And you know what, maybe it happens at your conference that you're putting on, that you take that person and you move them from that pre-contemplative to contemplative, from contemplative to preparation. And boy, those are the three. Those are the three sets in that trans-theoretical model that we, like Mark was saying earlier, that we need to have the greatest amount of impact in. And it's super fun when it happens.
Yeah, the whole meeting lights up. Let's take a look at the second poll. How do you work in healthy lifestyles to your meetings? Do you look at food only, drinks, breaks, or other? And if it's an other, tell us. You know, what types of healthy aspects do you build into your meetings? And then share that with us. Oh, drinks, less or no sugar, big. Pretty even. Very interesting between the last poll and this poll. Healthy foods, breaks. Breaks which encourage people to get up and move. I personally, I've been to thousands of meetings, and I love it when we can get up and move around, go outside for a little bit, get some fresh air, or bring fresh air in, take a break, take a quick walk. Makes a big difference. 77.7% breaks. Has that been your experience, both of you, in working with groups for meetings and events? Mark and Arch.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think with the breaks, I think it's important to, again, it goes back to giving them the opportunity. You can't force people to do this. I mean, if you're planning a meeting for the National Association of Couch Potatoes, you know, you have a lot of, you know, you have your work cut out for you, and so, you know, you're not going to want to have jump ropes and all kind of things like that. So you may want to look at maybe a 5 or 10-year plan to make a transition with that group. But again, you have to remember who you're dealing with, and just give them that opportunity, because I've been in situations and I've seen speakers who really encourage people almost too much, and even embarrass people that really just are maybe don't feel like moving around, or maybe can't move around as well as they should. So we have to, you know, keep in mind our audience, and like I said, just give them the opportunity, encourage them, but don't push too hard.
Yeah, and don't make it a surprise to where they show up and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I just came. This conference is a fit camp. I mean, they need to know. They needed to know, you know, weeks, months in advance of what the culture of this meeting, this conference is going to be like, and then the adoption of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to put on. It'll just bring a lot more understanding to why there isn't a table full of Coca-Cola and all these different things that don't necessarily suit what we're trying to achieve.
I was at a meeting in San Francisco.
Well, and like I said before.
And they, it was a gathering to look at children's television and children's programming, and everybody was in business suits and so on, but they told us to bring a pair of sneakers, so we brought our sneakers, and one of the gatherings was actually at the Exploratorium. So here we are at the Exploratorium, and everybody had a ball. They were running around trying all the whizmos and gizmos that they had for the kids, and it was really uplifting, engaging, energizing, and great fun. Of course, you can't do that with every meeting, but for that one, it was a sure winner. Mark, you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, you can have some obvious activities, and like I said, encourage that activity. Maybe have some, scavenger hunts, to encourage people to get up and move around. Because one of my, again, pet peeves is when I'm in a meeting and there's maybe 2 sessions following each other in the same room with a 10-minute break, and you see people just sitting there. They've been already sitting for 45 minutes to 90 minutes, and they're going to sit. You're not going to take advantage of that 10 minutes in between to move around, and then that right after that they're going to sit for another session, and that's really dangerous. We worry. The obvious one is the airplane and worrying about deep vein thrombosis with sitting on an airplane, but any sitting for too long, whether it be at a conference or at your desk, increases your risk. So we want to make sure we move around and stir that pot. But you can also make it, like I said before, a little bit sneaky, and when you provide the snacks, don't put them in the room, don't put them right outside the door. Make people walk a little bit, don't make it totally inconvenient, so that you're going to have, because there's going to be this delicate balance in satisfying the members, the attendees, and making sure they have a good time, and that making sure that you're not inconveniencing them too much, but at the same time not making it so convenient that we don't have to get up off of our butt and move around a little bit. So like I said, in the flow of the meeting, maybe sometimes if you have it available to you, have meetings, have sessions in different rooms so that people are forced to move around and get up and go from one room to another at least a couple of times throughout the day.
Very good point. What about tips for people for meetings where they have a lot of sitting, just to, even while you're sitting, move your feet, your hands, even, you don't even have to be obvious about it. It could be underneath the table, just to get some movement going. Any thoughts about that? Arch?
Yeah, I mentioned that. That super band before for flights. I mean, what a great thing to give every conference attendee, and then a sheet on how to use it with all the sitting that they're having to do. I think that would be. I think you can custom brand those things. Yeah, there's a ton you can do, and then musical chairs. I've seen musical chairs done before during conferences, during meetings, long meetings.
The band idea as a sort of an incentive gift would be neat. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And then there could even be an early morning session or a late afternoon session, apart from the formal part of the meeting. For those people who want to sign up, they can do it and go learn some techniques and uses of the band.
Yep, absolutely.
Are there stories that you'd like to share with us about some of the successes that you've witnessed in personal lives being turned around about using some of your techniques and how that's impacted their lives? Because really that has a difference on their bottom line, both individually as well as corporately. Arch?
Yep, sure. Would love to. Again, this goes back to the opportunity to do so. And a woman, mid-30s, a number of things going on. Overweight, depressed, a number of their health issues. Always kind of stood on the periphery. An employee at Active Network. Always kind of stood on the periphery, watched everything going on. Decided, you know what, she got from that pre-contemplative to contemplative stage just by seeing everything and witnessing the culture of health and activity going on in the company, and then kind of made that leap from contemplative to preparation, and got herself engaged, and over the course of the next 2 years, she went from wheelchair bound at Disneyland to preparing herself for a Ironman distance triathlon. So it was an incredible transformation, and she will say to this day, this is 3 or 4 years ago, but she will say to this day that it's because she had the opportunity to do so, and had she not had that opportunity, she would have never sought it out. She would have never taken it on herself to do that. And I think that's the role that I know Mark is so impassioned with as well is it's the responsibility that we put on ourselves as health and wellness professionals to shepherd those that need shepherding, and then let them see what happens once they build that into their lives.
Amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Let me remind our participants that if you have questions, please write them out for us and we'll filter those in. So please go ahead and do that. And I'd like to ask the same question of Mark. Any amazing stories of turnarounds in people's lives as a result of some of the efforts that you've implemented?
Well, in general, what I've seen, nobody stands out to the extent that the example that Arch mentioned, because my market and my target is people who have no interest in running a triathlon or a marathon. They just don't want to get out of breath when they go up the stairs. I always say, but most people don't really want a six-pack. They just don't want their belly to jiggle when they brush their teeth, and they'll be happy with that. And so that's where I start with, and just kind of get people started. And those people that again that are hardest to reach. And again, where this fitness from the rest of us concept came from was people who were coming to me and asking me questions and were very frustrated because they wanted to take better care of themselves, but all of the information that they could find, all the magazine articles and the specials on television were dealing with athletes and fitness professionals who live a different life. I don't work with celebrities. I don't work with professional athletes. I don't work with coaches or trainers. I work with lawyers and teachers and accountants and people who have real lives. And it's if you're being paid to be a professional athlete, that's your job. It's easy to work out when you're getting paid to lift weights and run and things like that. But for the rest of us, in fact, I always say this time of the year, I love it. Everybody's made these New Year's resolutions and they want to take care of themselves and they're going to spend 2 or 3 hours in the gym because they have 24 hours in a day. Well, again, if you're the rest of us, if you're sleeping 8 hours and you're working 8 hours, you only have 8 hours left, and in that 8 hours, there's family commitments and chores and different things to do, and so you're probably only working with 2 or 3. So start small. And so I think my biggest success and what I'm happiest with is just making it attainable for the average person and helping them understand that this idea of fitness, that the people on the magazine covers and the athletes we see are unique people, and that's what they do best. And even in that realm, a football player doesn't train like a baseball player. A gymnast doesn't train like a track athlete, and so neither really should we. We need to find the things that we need to do to make us more resilient, to increase our energy, and allow us to perform the unique tasks that we have during the day. And so instead, so not so much as looking to fitness and health and wellness as perfection, but more excellence in trying to be healthier than you were last week, last month, and last year, and that's a victory.
Yep, absolutely.
And that ties in with the whole concept of the whole good to great development in the business world. You're taking your own person from good to great. I also want to throw out another idea, and that is, MICE means meetings and incentives, and oftentimes incentives besides physical items, watches and iPads and so on, there are trips as part of incentives. But what about a health package as an incentive for employees? Have you developed anything like that? And it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a special trip to a particular facility. Any thoughts along that line? Especially now. Go ahead, Arch.
We have a number. 2 years ago, we implemented 2 additional what we call ACTIVex PTO days. And one day is just 2 extra days of paid vacation. One day is to go out and travel to an event or travel for a vacation to go hike. The other day is more of a philanthropic volunteer type activity, because we see, like Mark said, health is very different, means a lot of different things to many different people. So that's one way we've done it. Another way is we just started a program called the ACTIVex 411U, which is your own personal health information, your biometric information. and we're actually launching this program the 1st of February, and those that participate, the first year, those that participate will get $50 a month discount on their health insurance. So again, giving people visibility into really what their makeup is, and then providing them the opportunities and the education on what to do about it. So those are two big things that we're currently doing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. Mark, any thoughts along that line for creating packages or having created packages?
Sure, and well, I think we always have to be careful with the incentives when it comes to health and wellness, because there's a great way to get people started, but unfortunately, carrots and sticks don't always work as far as sustaining what we're trying to get done. And so it all goes back to, again, the education and the awareness, and really allowing people to do what they want to do. Just again, giving them that opportunity. Because again, when I go into companies and work with their wellness committee, and that wellness committee is made up of 5 Zumba instructors, guess what they're doing at lunchtime every day? And not everybody likes to Zumba. Not everybody likes to dance, and that's hard for those Zumba lovers to hear. But it's not for everybody. It's very popular, and it can be a great thing. But I think it's, again, just allowing people, giving them the information and the tools and the opportunities so that they can go out and discover their own types of exercise, and again, getting away from those models. One thing I stress in my talks, and it's kind of a part of my brand, I tell people to think outside the barbell. We so often, when we think of fitness, we think of running a marathon, or we think of going to the gym and lifting weights. And let me tell you, there are more gyms than there probably have ever been in history, but yet this country is less healthy than it's ever been, probably. Yeah. So that's not necessarily the answer. I think just, again, being physically active and trying to really take a look specifically at what you're doing with the tools and, like I said, the information, and trying to see what you can do better, and sometimes putting blinders on and not comparing yourself to those people around you that might be doing a little bit more, and can be intimidating for some people.
I'm in Miami this week at Prevue Magazine's headquarters and staying on the beach, and I am absolutely amazed at the number of people of literally every single age, from wee little toddlers and below to 90-year-olds, who do walking back and forth along the boardwalk, along the street, along the beaches, the sidewalks. I mean, it's just packed, and I was so delighted to see that, and wanted to get out there and join them, and did. So a lot of it has to do also with the environment, but then creating that environment for yourself to get out there.
Sure. Yep. Well, there's a term that they actually use. I don't know how I feel about this, but they call them active couch potatoes. And these are people who go to the gym for an hour or so, or they go and run for an hour or so, but the rest of their waking day is sitting around at work or sitting around watching television. And we're finding that those people still have the same risks of heart disease and diabetes and obesity as the people that are regular couch potatoes. So, really? Again, the analogy I always use is, it's like your employee. If you have an employee that really doesn't get things done that they need to do, but 1 hour a day they work their tail off, it's still probably not enough to win Employee of the Month. And so healthy people have ants in their pants. Healthy people move around, and I think, again, we need to give them that opportunity and the tools, and again, that awareness to encourage them to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Archie, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it goes back to incentive, and Dave Alberga, our former CEO, who we started this program with, we were very much aligned from the get-go that the incentive is going to be the opportunity, and that a toaster or a Starbucks gift card is only going to get you so many days or weeks of participation and buying into routine. So it's getting people giving them the opportunity to find interest in their health, and then making it part of their lifestyle is really what we're focused on.
Mm-hmm. And then also getting adults in the meeting and incentive industry and attending meetings who have children to incentivize and role model for their kids as well, so that we're working both individually and up and down the line.
And that's been, for us, that's been really fun to see, because we have a number of employees here with young families, and it's really fun to see how they've made it a family affair and not just an individual one.
Can you both talk a little bit more about the interrelationship of food and energy and lifestyle?
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, again, that's where we get our energy from, and people act like calories is a four-letter word, but we need a certain amount of calories. The problem is that when we get too many calories, our body stores them as fat, and even though we need a little bit of fat, too much fat is a bad thing. And so it really comes down to, I think, in any form of success, and especially wellness, it comes down to balance and boundaries. And so, again, when I talk to people, people are pleasantly surprised that I'm not the food police. I'm not, I don't particularly like to exercise myself. I always say it's kind of like people who clean their home. Nobody really likes to do housework, but you do it just because you know it needs to be done. And that's my approach to exercise. I'm not one of the fortunate ones who loves to exercise and really gets a thrill out of it. I do it to get it over with. And so I think like more, probably the majority of people, that you don't have to love it, but you have to do it. And I think, again, that's the anybody that's successful is willing to be disciplined enough to do the things that you need to do, even though you don't feel like doing them.
Let me ask you.
So it's that way with eating too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. We started a program 4 years ago called Take a Load Off. And it may sound like it's a weight loss program, but it's not. We at the very beginning, at the very onset, the whole Biggest Loser competitions in the workplace were going on, and we knew that is just a quick fix. Nobody's learning anything about their health by doing that, by a sprint to see who can lose the most weight. So we started with the help of a really brilliant nutrition person, we started a program called Take a Load Off, which dives more into the root causes and the effects of stress and the effects of negative self-talk and all of those other things that can use the food as an outlet. And so we've had a ton of success just with creating awareness around all of these things that employees and really everybody uses food as a crutch to deal with. And so again, we have some really fantastic stories and outcomes through our Take a Load Up program.
That is so neat. Let me remind our people who are participating from all over the world, if you have questions, to please let us know by writing them out, and we'll filter those in. Let me ask you both. There's been a lot of discussion on all different sides of when to eat and how much to eat. Is it a lot of little meals a day? Is it 3 meals a day? Something else? Any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I think you want to eat more frequent, smaller meals. And I don't think there's any magic number, but I do think that we want to avoid going too long without eating, because when we do that, the analogy I give my audiences and my patients is that, if you're my employee and I only pay you once a month, you're going to take that paycheck and you're going to put it into the bank because you know it has to last you all month. And that's what your body does with calories. If you have trained your body into thinking it's not going to be fed for a while, it's going to store those calories, and unfortunately it's going to store them as fat because that's the most efficient way to do it. So what we want to do is trick our body into thinking there's a steady flow of food, and so eating every 3 hours or so, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but just snacking, healthy snacking, and more frequent meals. Then that would be like that employee that got paid every day. If you're my employee and I pay you every day, you don't care how much money you spend today because tomorrow there's going to be more waiting for you, and that's what we want to do there. So we have to factor that into our our day and see how convenient it is. But again, it all comes down to planning. We don't want to be in a situation where we're hungry and we're slaves to the vending machines and fast food. We want to, pack our lunches and have healthy snacks available in our car, in our desk, and so that when we're hungry, we're prepared and we don't have to, even go to a restaurant. I mean, your plan A should be, again, home cooked food, good healthy food that you got from the grocery store, an organic market, and then if you can't do that, then a regular restaurant would be the next thing. But absolutely, a last resort would be the fast food and vending machines.
Great. Arch, any thoughts?
Yep, and just education. It's amazing what people just don't know, and really when you can educate and they can figure it out on their own, that's when it's going to stick. We'd much rather have somebody figure it out than we have to tell them. There's just a lot more success in that.
Right, they remember it. Let me mention to everybody, we have a show coming up in February, so stay tuned for that. And please know that you can watch this program as well as all of the other programs on iMeet, the Prevue websites, and also on iTunes. You can listen to it as you're driving in the car, etc., and also on YouTube. So we have a lot of outreach in different areas for you to tune in to the InFocus live community and keep the conversation going and network among yourselves as well. We have a couple of minutes left. Is there something burning that you'd like to share with all of us about being healthy in the meetings and incentive industry, either for those who are running the meetings or for those who are planning meetings for the participants, and tips for them to keep themselves healthy as well? Arch, any thoughts along those lines? Your sort of last statements, your last nuggets.
Yeah, great. I absolutely would say build a culture around it. Start it early. Let people know that this is what this conference is about. These are some things that we're going to do, and just build a culture around it. And that goes from how you market it to how you implement it. All the creative little things you can do throughout it, and who knows? Maybe your attendees will leave that conference with a new outlook on how they treat themselves.
Great insights, Dr. Mark.
Well, I've always said that, health is like a seed. Your body knows what it needs to do, just like a seed knows how to grow. And if you give it water, sunlight, and good soil, the seed takes care of the rest. And that's really how our health is. And if you can remove the obstacles that are in the way of you becoming more healthy, that's the key. The story goes that Michelangelo said that when he carved out David from that stone of marble, they asked him how he did it, and he said, "I just carved away the pieces that weren't David." And that's what we need to do with our health. We need to look at the things that are part of us that shouldn't be, part of us, and the habits that we have and the things that we do, and especially those things that are getting in the way of our health trying to do what it wants to do, and to allow us to be as healthy and fit and as energetic as we need to be.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking about creating that package for yourself, one of the issues is discipline. Any tips on getting an individual or yourself into that mode of discipline? Are there things that you tell yourself mentally, or things that you repeat to yourself, or notes that you leave for yourself to create that environment for discipline? Either of you.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think you just have to start small. Again, I think too often we set ourselves up for failure, and especially when it comes to discipline. I think everybody thinks of discipline as getting to the gym and getting there and working out at a certain time. But I think discipline also includes knowing when you've had enough and knowing when you need to move on to other things, because you know, going to the gym too much can be a distraction. In fact, I started to say before, this time of the year people go to the gym and the novelty is there and they want to do so much and they want to work out on every machine, and so they go consistently for several days, but they haven't been doing the laundry, they haven't been paying the bills, they haven't been doing the grocery shopping, and all of a sudden they're behind on that and have to stop going to the gym for a while. And so they stop going to the gym for what they think is only going to be a day or two to catch up, and that day or two turns into 5, turns into a week, it turns into a month, and they haven't been back to the gym. So start off small, work it into your schedule, and then once you start doing something every day for 10 or 15 minutes, build on that and make it part of your routine, and I think it's a lot easier.
Yeah, define your goal on what you want to get out of it, and then making sure it's something that you want to do and not that you have to do. Because if you want to do it, you're going to stick with it much longer, and your attitude around the whole thing is completely different.
So take it step by step, one little step at a time, become comfortable with that, embrace it, do it, work it into your schedule, and then if you want to get to the next level, whatever that level might be, you add things bit by bit. Well, what do you do personally? Do you take that approach personally, Arch?
Yes. Yes. It's been out of balance in the past, but yes, now that I'm older and wiser, absolutely.
And Mark, how do you handle your own discipline? What do you do? I see that smile.
Well, you know, it's like we were saying before, and I can't remember if we were being recorded at the time or not, but I said, you know, my wife calls me a mole because I like to exercise in our basement where she likes to go outside, and so I just do what I like to do. And I think, again, it comes down to the foods that we eat and the exercises we do, anything that we want to do. We can't really look at other people and copy them and imitate them. I think we really have to really try to learn as much as we can to see what we can do that fits into our lifestyle. And if you remember in math class, if you remember Venn diagrams where you took the two overlapping circles, you know, you take one circle that has things that are good for you, and you take the other circle that are things that you like, and you just look for the intersection. You know, and if jogging is not something you like, well then it's not even on the radar. Don't ever consider it. You know, or if there are foods that you know you're absolutely never going to eat and never going to like, well then don't worry about those. Focus on the things that you think you can do, the things that you like that are healthy, and then again build on that every day. Try to go a little bit further, work outside of your comfort zone bit by bit. But if you go too far, I mean, and this goes back to exercise. I've always again stressed that the whole point of exercise is to challenge your body, not punish it. And again, sometimes we go too far. And I think, again, the same thing with diets. I think sometimes when people are presented with a diet or something like that, it's just not very appealing to them. And so I think we have to take a look at what people are doing and mold that into something that's healthier rather than starting from scratch.
Yeah, and a nice balance of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation always is beneficial as well.
Well, you've both provided some very interesting wow stories and personal triumphs as well as triumphs of those people that you're working with. And I think that's an inspiration for all of us. And we certainly all appreciate the tips that you provided for keeping us healthy in a very tough and very active industry, and look forward to seeing what comes out of all of this and seeing what changes people make as they develop meetings and institute new policies for creating healthy meetings in the future. So thank you very much. Thank you, Arch Fuston, Creative Director for ACTIVex, and Dr. Mark Tinsley, Fitness for the Rest of Us. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And thank you, those of you who are with us from around the world. Join us next month in February. Stay tuned to Prevue Magazine and iMeet websites for the announcement on the date and time, and we'll look forward to having you join us. Thank you. Have a great day, and from Miami, have a great week. Bye-bye.